Yo, welcome everybody. I got a real watch. With days of the week and the day, and it says it is Monday night, May 12th, 2025, and this is In the Batter's Box, the NGSC Sports Baseball Show. I'm your host, Ralph Garcia, joined by the usual crew. He is the host of the Enhanced Sports Show Saturdays, 4 to 6 p.m. Listen, it's getting to be summertime. There won't be any school anymore, and schedules will change. So for now, I'm going to keep telling you to call in Wednesday. But at some point here in the next 60 days, you guys are going to have to start calling in on Tuesday. He is also the co-host of In the Batter's Box. Our buddy, unfortunately, a Yankees fan, but hey, everybody has their faults. Louis Tenor. Louis.
Ralph. I knew it was going to happen.
I tell you what, though, Louis. I tell you what, though.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to say it. Okay, the Yankees, they're in first place, but holy crap. If you're a baseball fan out there, people, and you're not absolutely appreciating what Aaron Judge is doing, man, it just like, wow. We'll talk about it, trust me. Of course, my partner, my right hand, sometimes my left hand. Some would say most of the time, both of my hands. Of course, as I always tell you every once in a while, one of the best friends I've ever been blessed with. He's also the co-host of this show. It's John Doucette. What say, partner?
Ralph, as always, good to be with you.
I'm waiting until we get old and gray, John. We're working on the gray. I could see we're working on the gray, but I'm up here. I'm back upstairs in my big, gigantic bonus room. My oldest girl has moved back home. My 49-year-old. She likes to keep the heat on.
Wow.
And she sleeps on the other side of the house where we have the home office and one of the other bathrooms and another bedroom. And I say I'll stay over there. Problem is she likes heat and she has a heater, and every time I look at the thermometer about the temperature in my office, it said 89, 91, 88, 91, 92. I said I better get out of here.
Yeah.
I better go back upstairs where it's safe. Holy crap.
Ooh.
So anyway, with that said, I'm saying that to say, I think I could sit up here, John, for, I don't know, another 10 years doing this.
Probably could, yeah, if you're comfortable.
Louis, you got anything better to do, Louis?
No, I'm
No?
free.
All right.
Yeah.
Eventually, folks, I'll say it's Monday, May 12th, 20. All right, oh, by the way, don't forget the website, ngscsports.com, where you catch all of your current content. I will turn to the website and tell you, if you log on now, you will catch, unfortunately, John will give us a quick recap here. Boston College comes into, or went to, I act like I'm there, John's there. Boston College took the trip to LeLacier Park, and, well, John, the brooms were aplenty.
Well, it's the beginning of a 5-game season-ending road trip for Boston College, a very important road trip for them. The 2 games that they played against UMass Lowell were games that they needed to win because of UMass Lowell's RPI, which is not very good. They got very good pitching over the weekend. AJ Colarusso and JD Ogden took care of UMass Lowell on Saturday in an 8-3 win in which BC hit 3 home runs. And then yesterday, 3 pitchers combined on a 6-hit shutout to beat Boston College 5-0. Gavin Suarez, Brady Miller, and John Kaniatowski took care of UMass Lowell. They got the kind of pitching that they needed to win 2 games that they desperately had to win if they're going to keep any tournament hopes alive that they believe at the moment they possess. They took a red eye after yesterday's game and are in Cal Berkeley at the moment, where they're getting ready for a 3-game series against Cal Berkeley that begins tomorrow night. Again, a very important series for them. They have to win at least a couple of games in that series to give themselves a legitimate shot to have some maneuverability with regards to the ACC tournament, which will be single elimination when it starts next week. As of right now, Boston College's first game in that tournament will be against Notre Dame. If they were to win that game, then they would face Duke. If they were to beat Duke, then in the quarterfinals they would meet North Carolina. So they probably do have to get to the quarterfinals to at least give themselves a legitimate chance to make the NCAA tournament. The ACC still believes they can get 12, 13 teams in that tournament, which is a large number. But then again, we saw the Southeastern Conference with the men's basketball tournament get as many teams in as they did. It's not
Right.
It's not out of the question that they can get 12.
It's not a big surprise. It's not a big surprise.
So, but they need to continue playing well, and they did play well over the weekend in Lowell.
Sammy Sportface gives us shut the door on Shallow Bill and all of college football. I don't know. I missed it. Okay. What? And I don't want to know. Apparently, there's some big hubbub to do about Belichick. And okay.
Well,
he dating a young woman, a very young woman for his age. You know what I'm going to say to that? Way to go, Bill.
Well, unfortunately, she got kicked out of North Carolina's football complex. Then she got reinstated back into the complex because Bill was unhappy with how she was apparently being treated over a 24-hour period of time. So that's what that's all about.
All Bill got to do is rein her in. But listen, John,
good luck.
The guy's our age, a little older than us. I'm going to tell you this. I'm married. I'm happy. If I wasn't, and I can get myself a young girl like that, and you're mad at me, you're just going to have to get over it. Bill, way to go, Bill. I'm not mad at you. Jordan Rhea gives us, of course, the story last week in the NBA, and I don't mean the NBA playoffs. A legend steps down. Greg Popovich, of course, had a stroke. Yes. He has been working so hard to try to get back, but is unable to. He will move up, but he's going to be the president of basketball operations in San Antonio. But Greg Popovich steps down as San Antonio head coach. John, Louis, when we talk about the NBA, right? John, you're in Celtic territory. Louis, New York Knicks,
Yes.
I mean, the Lakers and all these teams. The history over the last 30 years. Talk about so many teams, right? So many players. The San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili. I can continue on and on. Those guys are never talked about enough, John. They never talked about enough.
Well, the reign wasn't as long as it could have been, and I think that's the reason why. And in Popovich's case, not only is it involving the San Antonio Spurs, but it also involves Team USA too, because he was involved with them as well. So, but again, the reign of the San Antonio Spurs didn't last nearly as long as it could have, and maybe should have.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because think it's 5 titles over a 20-year span. It's almost like the Patriots, right? Except they didn't have just Tom Brady. And think about this as we get to baseball, because we are going to get to baseball. The NBA draft lottery is about to happen, okay? And if you and listen, I'm going to say it. I don't know why. I'm just going to say it. I think the San Antonio Spurs are going to win this. For some reason, they're just going to win the lottery, and they're going to get a Cooper Flag, and they're going to get Giannis to come over, and they got Wemby, and it's going to be all over. Listen, the legacy that this man leaves, what he was able to do, John, a league full of stars with big mouths, flashy, and you never saw that in San Antonio.
Well, you did, and then again, the market, I think, has a lot to do with it. Yeah. Obviously, he'd been in Boston, New York, Los Angeles. I think his legacy would have certainly been a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, John.
He was in San Antonio, and I think he took advantage of the quietness that San Antonio provided him. And he had, again, great players for a while, but unfortunately, they didn't stay together long enough to really create the legacy that he could have created somewhere else.
That's a really good point, John. I never thought about it like that. That's a really good point. The market, what it did. Look, we know Greg Popovich, great legend, Hall of Famer. What if he would have coached and done that in a bigger market? Wow. And
He may not have lasted as long either, based on
may
the
not, and he may not, and probably would not have been as successful as he was in San Antonio. So
Right.
last on that subject, from me to you, Pop. Thank you for some of the greatest memories of my life in the NBA. I've never been a San Antonio Spurs fan. I've never not liked San Antonio. They just haven't been my team. But how do
Right.
you hate? How can you hate on what Greg Popovich has done? And
No,
imagine
no.
this guy. Somehow the Spurs always seem to land that generational talent, John. Like
Well, they
last
did.
30
Certainly landing Tim Duncan out of the draft when he was coming out after being at Wake Forest was really what pieced the whole thing together. And then, getting David Robinson after he left the Naval Academy.
Yeah, it's like. Well, anyway,
How it
good
pieced the whole
luck.
thing together.
But he's still there. He's still going to be running the show. Just be running it from upstairs. Oh, last but not least, the season is over for the Fleet, huh, John?
Boy, that was a rough. Was a rough Saturday too. Lots of things happened. None of them good. Erin Frankel came back after she came off concussion protocol, and that was based on the World Championships and getting run over in that gold medal game against Canada. She didn't play well. That first period was a disaster, to say the least, and they were in a rather large hole. It gets worse because
Crystal.
the players decided that they didn't want to know the score of the Ottawa-Toronto game that started an hour before they did. The head coach didn't want to know either. That game ended just as the second period at Songa Center ended. And by that point, the Fleet were down 6-0. A staffer walked into their locker room and informed them that Ottawa had won. And consequently, their season was over, unless they were to score 6 goals in the third period to keep the thing alive. They were angry, to say the least. They took their time coming out of the locker room, but when they finally did come back out, they decided that they were going to play that third period like it was a 0-0 game. And they did. And to their credit, that they played the 20 minutes like you would hope and expect them to do, even though they were facing quite the hill that they were never able to climb. I don't know what happened to the staff. My assumption is the staff has been fired, but that's
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so.
I would think that's what happened. After the game, we had a chance to talk with Hillary Knight because the World Championships has really become the focal point of the end of season for the PWHL. And there were tons of injuries that took place in that tournament that involves all 6 teams that are in this league. And the thinking is that tournament has got to change its date. Instead of being played in April, which is at the tail end of their season, either you play that after it's over, the entire season, or you play it before the season even begins, which would be in September. The players have always steadfastly said that they do not want to play hockey in June, which is fine. If you don't want to play hockey in June, don't play. Yeah. So it appears that they got to do something with this tournament. I mean, next year is going to be brutal. You have an Olympic break that'll be in February. You'll have a World Championship break again that's going to be in April. Plus, you're going to try and play the season in between everything else. So the players that are going to be a part of the European aspect of this next season is going to end up playing a ton of hockey in a very short period of time. And I think what happened to the Fleet and to other teams is going to happen again next year.
Right, John, because at one point, the Fleet were what? They were in second place.
Yes.
They were second place in the league. And at that point, remember, and they played their way up to second place because they weren't played. They didn't start off the season well at all.
They played
and they finally found that groove. And then you have these breaks, and that obviously that played a big because all of a sudden it just wasn't the same Fleet team anymore.
Well, it wasn't the same Fleet team because it got decimated by injuries. And it got decimated by injuries in an in-season tournament that unfortunately the fan base of this league doesn't care about. They don't care about it. Now, again, I understand Hillary Knight's legacy has been created by the Olympic experience and the World Championship experience. That's how her legacy's been created. So she defended that world championship as I would expected her to do. But they got to do something with that tournament because they can't keep doing this.
Yeah. And we actually done talk baseball. So the beginning of the season in Major League Baseball brings you things like the team that gets hot that you didn't expect, right? The surprises, the players, not the normal, but the quiet, all kinds of storylines. Other storylines, early hamstring injuries, other injuries that affect teams at the beginning of the season that they work with, managers strategizing. The other thing on the bad side is be careful of how bad of a season you have, how bad of a start to a season you have, because 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, it's the manager who's going to take the blame and then get the axe. John, in Major League Baseball, the axe dropped twice.
It dropped really quickly, didn't it? I mean, within the first month of the
I
regular
mean,
season, already
quick.
2 guys have been fired here. In Pittsburgh. But we'll start with Colorado first because I think that's the one that really is, I think, the worst of the two. Bud Black got fired yesterday by the Colorado Rockies. And we're talking about a team that, as of yesterday, had the worst earned run average in Major League Baseball at 5.77. They have the worst OPS in baseball at 6.46, and the worst team fielding in baseball at .976. It's a team that's been in existence for 33 years. In those 33 years, they've only been above 500 9 times. One of those times was the year they went to the World Series in 2007 and were eliminated by the Red Sox when they got swept. This could potentially be the 3rd straight season that the Colorado Rockies could end up with a 100-loss year. Now, there are lots of things to really look at with this team and say, well, exactly what's going on. The one thing that's really interesting about the Rockies is their attendance has not fallen. People are still going to the ballpark. They're still watching this team play. They're still watching a bad product, but apparently they don't seem to care. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but at least they're showing up.
John, try to remember, John. It's Colorado, right?
I guess.
They can go get a couple of smokes in, feel really get a good buzz going, go to the park, and hey, who cares after that? I'm just going to enjoy the day because I know my team sucks. I just want to touch on something you said right there because nine seasons.
9.
And it isn't like this Rockies team has been 20 or 30 games above 500 in those seasons either, right? They're barely above 500.
2017 would be the one that was in that category.
The one season. And because we're going to go to the other, but Louis, I want to get Louis in on this. Here's what bothers me, Louis. And we see it so much in sports. I don't know why, but baseball, I could be wrong, just appears to happen so much more. What I'm getting at, Louis, is look at what John just said about Colorado. 33 years in baseball, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to use a line I heard about the NBA. I won't say what it was, but it goes well here. At what point, Louis, does the Colorado front office and I'm not talking about the GM, but the president, the owner, the big one, the one who makes decisions. At what point do you think, Louis, they might say, we want to win? Like, we really want to win? Because it's not like Colorado has invested money to build a franchise. Hence why they've had so many losing seasons, right, Louis? But here we sit here. This team is 7-33. Bob Black's been there for years. I guess it was time for him to go. But it's bad, Louis. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, as my other colleague said, the writing is on the wall. Yeah, the writing was on the wall, I think, at the beginning of the season, to be honest, because this is just unacceptable by Major League standards. 7-33. I mean, it's your season's just about over anyway. I think your tragic number is like about what, 10 before you're going to be eliminated anyway from the playoffs. I mean, it's just embarrassing. I thought last year's White Sox was even worse, but this can even take the cake out of that.
Yeah, and John.
At this
real
point
quick.
last year, the Chicago White Sox were 12-28.
Yeah.
So they had a better record than the Colorado Rockies do at this
I didn't
point.
realize that. So they had 12
It
wins.
was,
That,
yeah.
12
wow.
wins at this point.
Wow. All right, John, something you said right there, it really clicked. I know this, but it's just hearing it and hearing you say it, it clicks. The fact that no matter how bad this Rocky team is, you're right. That stadium continues to fill. And here's where I'm going with that.
Oh,
This is what bothers me. Isn't that part of the problem with baseball front offices and owners? They get too comfortable. My stadium is full. We're making all this money. Yeah, well, we haven't won. You know what I'm saying, John? I think they get complacent. They get too used to this and don't care
Yeah.
enough about building a winner.
No, it doesn't appear that that's the case. And I think that's something that the fan base should be upset about, but it doesn't appear that they are. They're still willing to go to the ballpark and watch what clearly is a bad product.
I don't get it. I don't.
that kind of sounds strange. I mean, you're going to see a team lose. I mean, you're a bad product, and yet you're still going. I mean, I thought it would probably like discourage fans from going. Because who wants to go see a losing product year after year? So that is kind of surprising that despite the fact that you suck, you're still showing up. I can't imagine why, but
Well, I mean, they're
I
still renewing
don't
their,
know, just loyalty or plain stupidity.
well, Lloyd, they're still renewing their season ticket holders. They're still doing this. Their corporate sponsors are not leaving them. So they're still making the money that you would expect a good team to make.
And
This is
that's the kicker. There it is, John. There it is. When you have a really good team, great team, the turnstiles keep turning. The merchandise is bought. The concession stands are busy. The place is rocking. Teams, for example, like the Tennessee Titans here say, hey, why don't we upgrade and not just build a stadium? Let's build a community here with shopping centers, businesses, and that's associated with winners. But in this case, the Rockies have something great because they're selling, they're selling, they're selling, and they're selling. And then they keep losing and losing and losing and losing. And I get tired of this, John. The manager got to get fired. It's too bad we can't fire an owner.
No.
In this case, it's probably true. And at least the front office staff that doesn't appear to be drafting well enough and developing whatever they draft to turn this thing around into at least a decent product.
Quick sports announcement here. I turned my head just quickly to my TV, just for the heck of it, to see what was on, and realized, oh, the NBA draft lottery.
Yep.
Brought to you by State Farm. John, another axe fell.
Well, in Derek Shelton's case in Pittsburgh, I think it's a little different story because I think the Pirates have drafted well, especially over the last 2 years. Henry Davis was drafted 2 years ago out of Louisville to be their everyday catcher, and that's what he's become. And then last year, Paul Skeens was drafted out of LSU, and he's become immediately the face of that franchise. And so I think that in Pittsburgh's case, you have building blocks that are in place to turn this thing into a much better product than it has been. But unfortunately, in Derek Shelton's case, he has not been able to put this team in the first division of a central division in the National League that is winnable for anybody and everybody.
By the way, quick breaking news: the Dallas Mavericks have won the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery. The San Antonio Spurs will pick second.
Well, and it looks like Cooper Flag is going to become a Dallas Maverick to team up with Anthony Davis. That's an interesting combination.
Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson.
Yeah, that's an interesting combination.
Interesting combination. Back to this subject right here. Here's the other problem I have with what you said, John. So with the Pirates, again, we, the three of us, we remember we are family. Willie Stargell, the Bucks, Dave Parker. I mean, listen, I can't stand any Pittsburgh team, but I'm a baseball fan, and this was a hell of a baseball team, and they were winners. And then, of course, the Pirates went into a funk. They've been in this funk for decades now. And you
They
said
briefly
something.
get out of it during the days of Andy Van Slyke and Barry Bonds when that team was together for the brief time they were together.
Yep.
So
And
Right.
again, brief time. But you said something right there. And that is about the Pirates drafting well. And that's true. Why, John? And we've talked about the answer why. Again, the other side of the coin from the Rockies. Here's a team that drafts well. Where's the problem? That player development, John? Because how do you draft well and still keep losing, John?
That's a good question. And I do think that player development is an issue with this team that has not necessarily been addressed. And you're also dealing with an owner that appears not to be willing to spend the money to back up the good drafting that has been done by this organization.
There it is. Louis, that's where I was going with you. So I'm an owner of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we have Paul Skeens. In case you people haven't been paying attention, this guy, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting till Paul Skeens figures out how to pitch in Major League Baseball. When he figures that out, oh man, this guy's gonna be so damn good. But
Yeah.
Louis, if
He's
I'm the
already
manager,
figured
right, and Louis, you and I are the owners, right? I'm gonna come to you and I'm gonna say, come to your office and say, Louis, we got Paul,
Yeah.
right? Don't you think that this is the time here that we should just break from the mold, spend some money, put some talent around this guy? Let's build a winner. But it doesn't happen.
That should be your mentality to do it, to build yourself a winner. That's the whole mentality of it. And you haven't done it. Despite the money you're spending, which goes to prove that just because you spend the money doesn't mean your team is going to guarantee yourself a win.
No. And I hate it for a guy like Paul Skeens, John, and others, that the Pirates have drafted, because you see them have really good years, some of them great seasons in Pittsburgh, to no avail.
Right. And unfortunately, their best years are going to be wasted potentially on a bad team.
You ever heard of the? I don't know if you guys ever heard of this guy. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy. I'm just going to say his name real quick. Never know if you ever heard of him. Mike Trout. How could you be so great and so, like, who talked about Mike Trout? You talk about Mike Trout because Mike Trout is a great baseball player and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. That's why you talk about Michael Day. He's one of the best players of our time. But you also don't talk about Mike Trout because he plays for a team that doesn't care about winning. They only care about the cash. And I hate it for these guys because these are the guys that are going to leave the game, John, and eventually retire. They'll never have not only they'll never have a title, they'll never even really know what it's like, what playoff like. Guys like Mike Trout, and we can mention a whole bunch of them. Guys like that, they deserve to taste the postseason. They deserve to know what it feels like.
It's an interesting legacy that a guy like Trout is going to eventually have, and it's a legacy that's going to have two sides to that coin. The good side, which was the dominant years that he possessed, and then the bad side, which is it never got to the playoffs.
How do you not reach the end of your career in a case like this, like the Pirates? Other teams do. There are other teams like this, but I just thought about this. You're sitting there; it's all over. 2, 3, 4 years into retirement. How do you? And you're not going to make this public because you're professional. But in your private moments, Sean and Louis, how are you not thinking, damn, I was great. I was great when I got to Pittsburgh. I knew the history, but I thought that maybe with me there, things would change and we could turn. And I missed a whole lot. I mean, I don't care if I'm a baseball player and I put up great numbers throughout my career. Well, that's great. I got in it to win a title. I got in it to win championships. At least compete for them. And so many players get lost in that shuffle, man. It's
Unfortunately, in Trout's case, I mean, he did have the opportunity to walk away, and he signed an extension that probably wasn't a great idea at the time.
No, it wasn't.
Another good point, John, because there are players like going back to Mike Trout. How many times have I said it through the years on this show? Hey, Mike, when the hell are you going to get out of LA and go somewhere? And some of these guys, they like a job.
Yeah.
Right, like a job. They get a job, they stay for 30 years, they retire, and that's it. Not me, man. I want to win. I want to win. All right, so we'll go through our usual look at the week in Major League Baseball. This is where I go to the Major League Baseball standings and we start talking about the teams and what they're doing. For example, one of my least favorite things to talk about, well, excuse me, my least favorite thing to talk about on this show is anything good about the Yankees.
Uh,
But I got a show, I'm a host, and we gotta, and I'm a baseball fan. 23-17, Louis. So the Yankees are in first place, but that's not the story so much in New York, Louis. Holy crap. What Henry Judge is doing. And by the way, I got to mention too, I do like the fact that, unless I'm missing something that you guys can correct me on, we're not
yeah,
seeing those crazy stories about juicing and blaming it on this and that. And it
right.
looks like we've gotten past it. But Louis, anyway, I'm going to leave the floor to you because Yankees are in first place and Aaron Judge is just playing out of his mind.
He's just unstoppable this year. I mean, he's hitting. It's like he had back in 2022 when he hit the 62 home runs. He's on pace for that again. And they keep hitting him. The Yankees keep on winning. This is going to be unstoppable this year. I mean, I'm really surprised that Judge is even doing this. Because the last few years he's been plagued by injuries and kind of affected his game a bit. So now he seems to be back up in the top form where he was back in 2022. As a Yankee fan, of course, I couldn't be happier. I know what the rest of y'all think, but because you might be Yankee fans, but as a fan of the game itself, I'm happy about it. It's good for the Yankees and it's good for baseball. To
No,
have
it
a
is. It is. And John the Sox and John the Sox, 2 games back, hanging with the Yankees there. But yeah, talk to me about Judge, the Yankees, and what's going on in Boston, John.
Oh, look, first of all, the Yankees have already hit 70 home runs. I mean, they're on pace
That's
to hit a
ridiculous,
ridiculous
man.
amount of home runs by the time we get to the end of September, unless things
Man.
somehow cool off for them. And I'm not sure that necessarily becomes the case once the warmer weather comes of June, July, August, and Yankee Stadium becomes a much smaller ballpark to play in. I think that some of the home run numbers that these guys are going to put up is going to be frankly ridiculous to even believe, but it seems to be what they're doing. Um, but again, the Yankees haven't pulled away from this division despite what they're doing. The Red Sox have been able to stay with them, and the Red Sox have been able to stay with them based on some depth in the starting rotation that's allowed them to maintain contact. I think the interesting thing about this division happens to be the team that's in last place, which is the
Oh,
Royals.
you
They've
did it
lost
again.
7 out of their last 10 games, and this team appears to be stumbling and bumbling their way through at least the first month, if not longer. And I'm not sure it's going to get any better for them.
They can't score runs. They can't
No.
score runs. I
When you look at that lineup and you look at who's in that lineup,
and
and
you're like, how?
and they
How?
can't score, it's hard to understand. It really is.
John, you did it again. That's why we're partners, folks, because he knew exactly what I was going to go right into. That is not the story in the American League East. Yes, Aaron Judge is having an incredible year. The Yankees are hitting them out the park like wow, like there's no tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
Sox playing good baseball. Hell, the Jays are playing 500. But the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, I look, I'm almost speechless because I'm watching film on the Orioles, right? And I was going to go where you went, John. You look at the lineup, and one of the films I was looking at, coincidentally, it started with the lineup, showing the lineup on the screen, and then watching the film, and these guys absolutely not hitting bait. And I'm like, what is going on? This is the same team that over the last few years has little by little by little. elevated themselves to championship contention.
They've definitely taken a step back. There's no doubt about that. And you do wonder if their manager could potentially be the next guy that's in trouble.
Hey, listen, how about 2 or 3 steps back?
Yeah,
This is not.
possibly two,
This
three,
is
yeah.
not.
Could be
This
two or
is
three
not.
steps back. Yeah,
This is not the same pitching staff. This is not the same team hitting. It's the same team, though. It's the same players,
same. Absolutely, yes. The core is the same.
but it's as if the whole team has gone into a slump. And you're right. If they don't turn it around quick, soon, listen. Remember, before the season started, we made jokes, right? Hey, what are we going to be talking about at the All-Star break? You know, we can't wait to see what the stories will be at the All-Star break. Could it be at the All-Star break that we're talking that the Baltimore Orioles basically are out of it?
It's possible based on what's going on at the top of the division.
Yes,
That's possible.
That's why I say that. That's why I asked that question, because it is literally possible that the Orioles could be out of it by the break, which nobody saw that coming. By the way,
And what's even more interesting is the teams would certainly come calling to Baltimore to see what they'd be willing to get rid of.
Oh boy, and do they have a treasure trove of assets?
They do have a treasure chest. Yes, they do, and that makes that even more interesting. Is what the Orioles would do at that point if they are out of it. Will they be willing to?
And that would be so
or
sad.
will they hang on to what they have?
And that would be so sad, John, because I use Louis and I as the example before. Now I use you and I as the example, and we own this Baltimore Orioles team. I know we're on the same page when I tell you, John, this is a better baseball team than this.
And I would agree with that, absolutely, yes.
We have to figure out what is wrong and get this team back on track, because we're not busting this team up.
No.
This is the kind of team you don't break up.
No.
But very interesting what you brought up, because even though they may not have intentions of breaking up, if the Orioles have a bad season, the rest of the league is going to come hollering.
Absolutely, because of what's there.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? That's when you do it. They had a bad season. I got a call from Louis, owner of the Yankees, and he's thinking about poaching in here a couple of our players. Well, of course he would.
Of course I would.
Yeah, sure you would. Of course you would.
Very, very surprised.
I'd be stupid not to.
Right.
I am thoroughly enjoying the Detroit Tigers play baseball.
Yeah.
I really am enjoying watching the Tigers, because remember that last year, as they and the Kansas City Royals were making their push, John, the question was, would it carry over? It's got to carry over to 2025. Let's see where it goes. I look over here, it looks like Kansas City and Detroit are following up on their finish last year, John.
The Royals had won 16 of 18 going into their weekend series with the Red Sox, in which they lost 2 out of 3. They have been playing outstanding baseball.
Oh, yeah.
The Twins have started to play great baseball. They've won 8 in a row. And the Tigers are playing good baseball as well. So you've got a division that is loaded with teams that are playing well, which is going to make it very interesting and potentially difficult for teams in the East, and for that matter in the West, to become wild card contenders.
And by the way, Louis, John said the White Sox were 12-28, right, last year? Right.
Yes.
They're 12-29 now. They're on pace. They're on pace for another.
Loser.
Yeah, that is pretty bad when you see that. At least they've got. At least they can say we're not the worst team. By the way, another sports announcement. It is Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, Madison Square Garden in New York. New York Knicks playing host to the Boston Celtics. Listen, I'm a Knicks fan. Oh, did I enjoy? Oh, we enjoyed those first 2 games. But as a sports fan who's smart, I never once did I, and I know you didn't either, Louis, never once did I say the series was over. And those people that
No.
were saying, "Oh, it's over for the Celtics. It's over for the Celtics." What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
right.
You're talking about a Celtics team that missed 75 threes in 2 games. And you're thinking, were you going to stop? Anyway, it is game 4. And I'll say this. This is it right here. If the Boston Celtics win tonight in Madison Square Garden, cash it in. It'll be the second win of 4 straight. If the Celtics win tonight, they
Yeah.
will win game 5 in Boston. The Knicks aren't going to win in Boston again. Listen, I saw two miracles in Boston. I did no way that's happening again.
Especially Wednesday.
And
What was that?
Yeah. And look, so to my Knicks, it's now or never. Because if you don't beat the Celtics tonight, and even if you do, I'm still not just going to cut the Celtics out down 3-1. I can't.
No, you can't.
No, they're too good.
Archie Friable? No.
In the American League West, now, here's where it gets interesting, John. Because the Seattle Mariners over the last few years have fielded a good baseball team, making runs towards the playoffs. We see at this time of year, just before the All-Star game, it's kind of becoming normal to see the Seattle Mariners, as they are now, on top at the AL West. Houston Astros continue to hang in, John, but I think that the Astros' time has passed. We talked about that. But what's the feel-good story? What's the feel-good story?
Is the Texas Rangers and what they can potentially do here.
Yeah.
Depth in their starting rotation, led by Nathan Eovaldi, an offense that's pretty good from 1 through 9. I think the difference between the Texas Rangers and the Mariners is the Rangers have bats, and the Mariners are still looking for them.
Hey, how about those A's?
And again, I will say this, the A's and the Tampa Bay Rays playing in small ballparks, which is what they're both doing, I think has contributed to the success that they've had, because instead of worrying about 11,000 people being spread out in a big ballpark, instead it's 11,000 people in a small, compact ballpark, and I think it has really changed the dynamic of these.
I really do, John. That was really good, because I was going to say, normally, it's got to affect your game when you're used to playing in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people going around the league, and you all of a sudden find yourself in a sardine can. It's like, it's got to affect, you would think it would affect your game. Jesus Christ, look at this little play. What are we doing? And I'm going to what you said right there. I thought you were going to say this, but these small stadiums that these two teams, they're playing good baseball right now. Because, John, for me, they went into these parts realizing, okay, well, instead of making anything big about this, how about we just play baseball?
Well, you're playing baseball in front of what you would call sold-out crowds, despite the fact that they're really not sold out.
It's small. The entertainment. And these two teams, especially the A's, I've been watching the A's really closely the last couple of weeks. They just, let me say this the right way. So the A's from these couple of past years, you could see the body language, the play of the team. Yeah, they got problems. They're just playing, John. They're just playing. It's like it says they're playing. Okay, they're playing with house money, John. They're like they have no worries. They're like they're gonna make the best of it. And both these teams, hey Louis, maybe teams should start thinking, man, maybe we don't need 50,000 seats. Nah, they'll never do anything like that.
I didn't want that one to happen.
Well, I mean, again, it's 14,000 people, but the ballpark is full, and I think the ballpark is full. It has raised the enthusiasm of these teams to potentially a level.
Yeah, you got a packed house. You got a packed house. Either way, no matter how you look at it. 11 and by the way, I haven't checked the numbers, but you think maybe the A's are drawing better here than they were in Oakland?
I think they are drawing better.
I think
so, yeah.
Yes, I think they are. And that is another interesting aspect to the story, is that they're drawing better in Sacramento than they were in Oakland.
Why?
I get that. That's an interesting question, I guess, because I mean, Sacramento has been a minor league city for many years. And so there's always been a fan base in Sacramento that has gone to watch minor league baseball. So
Yeah.
now instead of watching AAA baseball or AA baseball, they're now watching the major league version. And I think that they're interested in seeing players and teams that, for the most part, they just didn't give themselves the opportunity to go see. Like, for instance, this weekend they got a chance to see the Yankees. And so Aaron Judge and the boys were there. And so for the people in Sacramento, that was a big time opportunity for them to go see something that, for the most part, they weren't willing to go to Oakland to go see.
Louis, it's good, Louis, to see the fan, because that is the answer, by the way. It's
Yes.
the only It's the only answer. So you have a minor league base of fans, minor league fan base, who's so appreciative of having a major league baseball team. Like John just said, Louis, they got to see the Yankees, man. They get to see. I mean, I love it. I love that it's working. I really do.
It's just an interesting way to have it work. That's all.
Yeah, not the way, not
Not the
exactly.
way you want it to work, right? It's
Right, not exactly the blueprint.
No, it's not the formula. It's not
that you want for a major league franchise. Of course not. Let's see here. Yeah, but it is a feel good story. And the Los Angeles Angels, they're sitting where I see them sitting all the time.
The good news with the Angels is that Joe Adell is playing very well for them, and he's a guy that's been in this organization for a long time. And it's finally good to see that Joe Adell has gotten a chance at the major league level to be something. And he's playing center field, which has allowed Mike Trout to become a corner outfielder. It's allowed Trout to stay healthy enough to play most often. And Joe Adell is taking advantage of being a center fielder for that team, and that is working for them. It's one of the few things, unfortunately, that's working for them, but at least it's something that they can kind of bank on and showcase. And maybe Joe Adell becomes a trade bait for a team that's looking for a center fielder once we get to July and August.
Yep. And over to the National League, of course. Meet the Mets.
Yeah.
Step right up and greet the Mets. Hey, listen. By the way, it's pouring rain here in Clarksville, Tennessee. I mean, the thunder, it's lightning, and it is raining cats and dogs. And in Madison Square Garden, it's raining threes. 11-4 Boston. But anyway, the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies, of course, battling for the top spot in the East. Mets have taken a little slide back. But Louis, you got to admit, Louis, playing some good baseball over there in Citi Field.
Yeah, better than I expected. Last year they got to a slow start, but then they picked it up. This year they didn't get up to it, and they're still holding on. I mean, this is a completely different team, and of course you can thank in part of that to of course Juan Soto.
I think the other guy you can thank is Tyler McGill, who has been very good for a rotation that has lost 40% of its planned rotation.
Surprised me, John.
This guy has got a 1.77 home run average in the 6 starts that he had made leading into that one against St. Louis over the weekend. The Mets lead Major League Baseball in earned run average, and that has been a key to them being as good as they've been.
And of course, Juan Soto is settling in New York. But when you're that good, it doesn't really take that much to settle in.
No.
Well, as Louis about to find out, when Soto returns to Yankee Stadium over the weekend, it'll be interesting to see the reaction he gets.
Oh, yeah. Boy, it's really coming down. I know I got one of my dogs hiding. The Atlanta Braves at 19-21. Better off than I thought they would be. Again, it's a baseball team that unfortunately, injuries and the injury bug has really killed the last 2 seasons for the Braves.
But after getting off to a really rough start at the very beginning of this season,
playing
much better lately. I tend to think that the Braves are going to turn themselves around and become a factor before all is said and done.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess as a Met fan, I'll be grateful because the Braves were at full strength and playing up to par. I would assume that everybody would be looking up.
Well, let's face it, the other thing about the Mets is that Francisco Lindor is playing awfully well for that team and is doing
You
it
know,
with the
thank
glove.
thank you, John, because when we got Lindor, yes, I was so happy. But the first 2 years, though he had his moments, I'm just speaking for me. I just wasn't satisfied. It just wasn't satisfied. Over the course of last year and winding the season down and going into the season, I'm just really enjoying the Francisco Lindor that I'm seeing in New York.
He
That
really has taken the bull by the horn and has really become one of the leaders of this baseball team. And
exactly.
bit unexpected when he decided to try and become that one of those guys, but it has really worked out for that team.
That's the key right there, John. Again, you did it again, John. You know exactly what I'm going to say. That's where the big one is for me with Lindor. Is that listen, when you're a star, I understand that there are quiet stars. And there are guys that lead by example, they don't lead by voice. But Lindor is one of these guys who runs his mouth anyway. So I'm like, you know what? Be a leader. Use that voice. And he's using it now. And the team is hearing it. And it's done so much to galvanize this locker room. And I'm just watching this team play now with like a passion, a sense of purpose, a togetherness
Mm.
that I haven't seen in recent years. I'm really hopeful about this Met season. I really am
Let's
hopeful
face it,
about
the
this
amount
Met.
of money that Steve Cohen spent to put this thing together,
Yeah,
he really
he
did
spent,
quite well.
spent enough money. You got that right. Right? Spent enough money. And the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Chicago Cubs. Hmm.
You know what? You got to give the Cardinals a lot of credit. 8-game winning streak, best winning streak since 2022, I believe it is. Arenado is playing well for them after an offseason in which it didn't look like he was even going to be a Cardinal. But the fact that they didn't trade him may turn out to be the best move the Cardinals have made. And this team is playing awfully well. And who knows? They may be a team that could end up surprising a lot of people by the time this is all said and done.
Yeah, this was a Cardinal team that I definitely did not expect to compete like this right now. But yeah, they are playing good baseball. And of course, Louis, who's the only team that can beat the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Dodgers themselves.
At 27-14, the Dodgers find themselves where they should be in first place
Yes,
in the
of
National
course.
League West. The San Francisco Giants are the team, John, that have taken little slide back. They started off really
Yeah.
strong this season, but they've slid back a little bit in the pack. We're not going to talk about the Colorado Rockies, okay?
Well, I think in the Giants case, I think it's if you're going to compare the two rosters, obviously you're going to put the Dodgers head and shoulders above what the Giants possess. But I mean, give the Giants credit; they have at least forced the Dodgers to continue playing well, and the Giants can at least maintain what they're doing. They may be a wild card contender before all is said and done. And give Buster Posey credit; he's already demonstrated in his brief period of time being the president of that ball club that he knows what he's doing. And I believe that Posey's probably got a couple more tricks up his sleeve before this season is over to give that Giant team a chance to be a playoff team.
Yeah. Hey, and like I said, we're not going to talk about the
I think
Colorado.
the other team is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the fact that the Diamondbacks haven't really done a whole lot yet either. And although they're not in the Rockies category still,
Yeah,
uh,
they haven't folded at 21, but at 21-20, so they're over 500. They haven't folded, but yeah,
It's
they're
not
not
bad.
playing an exciting baseball in Arizona.
no, they're not. And again, if you're going to compete with the Dodgers and the Padres and eventually the Giants, you've got to be better than 21-20.
You got to do a whole lot more than
Yes.
that. Absolutely got to do a whole lot more. All right, so that wraps up our look at Major League Baseball. I knew I forgot something here.
Yes.
Week in. All right, here we go. Before final thoughts, we will go into the week in college baseball.
Well, this is the
John,
final week.
here's where I'm going to go with this. Now, here's where I'm going to go. You're going to take it from here. Once I get this page back, the storms are really. Oh boy, I don't know if you guys hear that.
I heard that one.
I think I
Wow,
heard it.
those
I
are
think I
some
just
big.
heard it.
That's some big. There's some
Got
big
some thunder
booms out
rolls.
here, so I'm going to close. Let's close this out. So, John, we have 4 series between ranked teams on the weekend schedule. All massive series. Number 3 LSU hosting number 7 Arkansas. Number 4 North Carolina hosting number 16 North Carolina State. Number 23 Alabama hosting number 6 Georgia, and another biggie in my neighborhood. Number 15 Tennessee against number 11 Vanderbilt. When it was all said and done, John, LSU is the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, and the Carolina series was interesting because Carolina is considered to be one of those teams that's vying for a regional host opportunity. And so that series with NC State was rather important for them if they want to solidify the resume to allow them the opportunity to play regional in Chapel Hill. For Carolina, and they were also looking for a double bye in the ACC tournament for next week, so that they would only have to play potentially 3 games as opposed to playing maybe 5. And so that was a big series for them with NC State. There was a lot on the line for them, and they did what they could do.
And Florida State and Texas baseball are officially back. I know that last year and the year before we had some questions, but they're back, John.
Florida State has just been a wagon from the get-go, and it's the pitching, it's the lineup, it's their ability to play defense. There are a lot of things to like about the Florida State Seminoles that I think once you get to tournament time, you're going to get to see, and that's just an awfully, awfully good baseball team.
It is an awfully good baseball team. Vanderbilt, with the series win over Tennessee, moves up to number 9. Tennessee continues its own free fall here.
Yeah, the Tennessee Volunteers. You do wonder that talk about their coach potentially becoming a manager of the Atlanta Braves in the very early stages of the Major League season. You do wonder if that's had a
I
lingering
didn't like
effect on our kids. Looking
it. I
over
have to wonder.
how long are you going
I
to
have
stay
to
here?
wonder.
You stay here for the year. What are you doing? And I do think that the internal discussion that may be going on about what's going to be his next move, I think is starting to affect this baseball team. And that was the fear that we had when we had this conversation back in early April. What will it do to this baseball team? And it does appear that you've got some kids looking over their shoulder trying to figure out what his next move is going to be.
You got to wonder if that. You got to think that. I mean, it's not something that just went in one ear and out the other. You
No, it
can't.
didn't. No,
No, and now that Tennessee's having not so hot of a baseball season, that talk might get louder.
it might get louder, especially if they're an early exit in both the SEC tournament and eventually in the regionals themselves, because they'll make the tournament. That's not necessarily an issue. But if they make early exits, then I think the talk about what his next move is going to be probably becomes the main topic of conversation down there.
Our buddies at Dallas Baptist finished the season strong enough to get themselves back in the top 25 at season's end at number 24. John, what I do want you to talk about before we get off college baseball is preview the America East Baseball Tournament coming up.
Well, the good news, well, I shouldn't say the good news. Bryant College yesterday, or Bryant University yesterday, solidified the number 1 spot by beating NJIT. That's their 29th win of the season. They have a chance to have a 30-win season before they get to the postseason, which would be very significant. And we're talking about a team that now will be winning back-to-back America East titles. The interesting part of America East is going to be at the bottom of the division. You have 3 teams. You have UAlbany, you have Maryland, Baltimore County, and UMass Lowell that are playing for 2 spots that are available, the final 2 spots that are available in the tournament. There is a game that separates the 3. Now, UMass Lowell will be on the road this weekend at NJIT. They have to win that series.
Oh, yeah.
Maryland Baltimore County is home to play Bryant. It'll be interesting to see what Bryant does with that weekend because it doesn't mean anything to them. And the other one will be Albany at Binghamton. That's a series that means something to both teams. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But UMass Lowell has got to win 2 games at least at NJIT to give themselves a chance to make it to the postseason, which will take place up in Maine. The one team that has nothing going on this weekend is the Maine Black Bears. Their season ended yesterday, and they this weekend will be in Stoulis, Connecticut, to play UConn for a 3-game series that frankly doesn't mean anything other than ratings points. But really, Maine's going to be watching everybody to see where they eventually end up. They're going to make the tournament that they're going to host, which is good news. They just don't know where they're going to be. But it's the bottom 3 teams, Albany, Maryland, Baltimore County, and UMass Lowell, where this thing is really still up in the air. 2 of them are going to make it. 1 of them isn't going to make it. The question becomes, who is who?
Who is who? And, hey, and that's why I play the games.
Mm-hmm.
Louis, final thoughts.
Yeah, right. This is how they play the game. It's true. Because since that college baseball's now coming down, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, the college tournament coming in a couple of weeks too. I mean, this is
By the way,
prime
the
time
St.
here.
Cloud Redmen happen to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know how much notoriety they get where you are, but the St. John's Red Storm is a pretty good baseball team.
Yeah, not a lot.
They are. No, it's kind of like in the back page of the sports section in this part of the country, because college baseball doesn't get that much attention here, like it does say like in the South and the West. But St. John's has proven to be good this year, and I'll keep my eye on them as the tournament continues.
Yeah.
Right. John, final thoughts.
Look, I mean, everything's coming to an end here, isn't it? College baseball started back in mid-February, and here we are, the middle of May, and it's about to come to an end. But the good part of the season is about to begin, and that is conference tournaments next week, and then eventually the NCAA's once we get past Memorial Day weekend. So the best part of college baseball is really about to begin, but it's always fun to experience college baseball, and hopefully what eventually transpires is worthy of what this season has been.
Good point, John. Ooh, got choked up there.
It's not Oklahoma that's the number 1 ranked college softball team. It is Texas A&M.
It is Texas A&M. That is true.
Right.
My final thoughts. They go to, towards what we talked about in the beginning, the Colorado Rockies, the teams that somehow, some way stay afloat, sell merchandise, sell tickets, owners that continue to, it's a consistent theme in professional sports, in this case baseball, and we got a couple of teams that we can put in this conversation where I don't have a lot of time left, right? I asked God for 80 years. And I just want to live 80 years. After that, it's a bonus. If he gives me 80, I got less than 18 years to go. And I can assure you that in these final 17 and a half years, I'm going to see the same thing. Teams like the Rockies and other teams they get complacent. They get satisfied.
It's not good. Can't be complacent.
They get satisfied. And this was so bad. We came up in an age where $1 million contract didn't exist. That was something that, I assume the certified financial planners and the experts, they projected into the future, right? One day they'll be Listen, I don't think that somebody said 20 years ago, one day there'll be a guy named Shohei and he'll sign a contract for like $700 million. I don't think that they said that.
No.
But the one thing that I appreciated so much about baseball back in the days is for the most part, a player played to earn his contract. He wanted to earn it. He wanted to
Yes.
play for it. And social media, TV, all this crap is just,
Endorsements.
yeah, it's just dirtied the game for me to a point where I'm like, and people wonder why it's the same teams that keep winning, right? Because it's the same teams that give a damn about winning and they want to win. I hate the New York Yankees. Oh my God. Listen, I've been saying that for years here. And I promise you, for all of you that have heard me say that, you still don't know how much I hate those Yankees. I can't stand those. You don't know how much I hate them. But they're committed to winning. When the New York Yankees don't win, the fan base is pissed. The front office is pissed. The players are pissed. And Major League Baseball isn't happy either.
Nope.
But the Colorado Rockies can sell out game after game after game after game, have all kinds of attendance, and the owners are sitting up there with their margaritas. Hey, Mike, hell of a crowd out here today. Yeah. But did you see the concession stands downstairs? Sure did. Oh, by the way, did you notice we're down 14-0? Listen, it's a great day. It's a great day at the turnstile.
Yeah.
It just
You suck, but at least we admit it.
It's just made the game. It makes the game so ugly. It just makes the game so ugly, and it'll never change. I know that. That's like acting. That's like asking politicians to do the right thing, and
Yes.
that doesn't happen either. So that's where we are, and I don't know. It would be great to wake up before I go and do this show and say something like, "Welcome, everybody. That's right. We're still here 27 years later in the batter's box." Do you know who the leaders of the pack are in baseball these days? The Colorado Rockies, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Angels. Those Angels. That's right. Perennial I just like to say that one time,
Yeah.
but it's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And
There's always the have and the have-nots, and I think that'll never change.
Oh yeah.
it's like I've always said, in every sport, there are teams that are perennial winners. That doesn't mean that they win the title every year, and it doesn't even mean that they make the playoffs every year. But for the most part, they're winners. The organization is full of winners. The organization demands that the team win. There'll never be another George Steinbrenner. There's never be a George Steinbrenner because I used to wait for George to come out of the booth, run out on the field, and just punch the pitcher in the face, while asking him, "What in the hell are you doing out here?" So it was a long final thought, but holy crap, who just shot that shot? Jason Tatum just hit a three-pointer from what appeared to be 88 feet from the parking lot, man. But it is 30-28 in the final minute of the first quarter. This is In the Batter's Box, the NGSC Sports Baseball Show. So glad, as always, that you could join us. Myself and my co-host, John Doucette and Louis Tenor, talking all the baseball we can. I'm going to get out of here because I'm going to look at these last three quarters, praying to the heavens above. I don't want to hear John's mouth. I really don't. I told him, well, the game's going to be, we'll be able to finish the show, first quarter. What's John's answer? Oh, you're not going to miss anything but the Celtics raining threes. These fans get spoiled. See, need to knock these damn Celtics on their ass. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I am supposed to be back Thursday. No, I'll be back Wednesday with the boys talking NBA playoffs. Until then, till next week. Over and out.
Good night.